I'm Alex Rogeo for Drag Racing Online, and we're here at the drag strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and today I'm talking to Melanie Troxel actually about the topic of women in drag racing. So how you doing today, Melanie?
Doing great.
Good. So first I'll ask you, how did you get started in drag racing?
You know, I grew up around drag racing. My dad raced, not on a professional level like this, but it was his hobby. So as a kid, we were at our local track in Colorado every weekend, and that's really where I grew up. So I've been around this all my life. At the time, they didn't have junior dragsters, so when I turned 16, if you wanted to get started, that was the earliest age you could. Started bringing up, just coming up and bracket racing other high school kids in your street car, and from there on, I was hooked. And I was fortunate enough to live at a track like here in Vegas, where you have a national event that comes to town. So I got to see all of the rigs pull in and the people who did this for a living, and I can still kind of remember when that light went on and I went, wow, okay, my dad has always done this for a hobby, but these people get to do this for a living. And I had no idea how you went about turning this into a career, but you know, I knew at that point that that's what I wanted to do.
So you've really been racing since you were 16?
Yeah, I started out when I was 16. Now we have a lot of, people out here who started, racing junior dragsters when they were 8. So it's kind of funny now. I feel like I've got a lot of years in. I've got 20-some years in racing, but I'll meet people who are quite a bit younger than me, and they've got 20 years in too. They started when they were 8. So, but yeah, I got started at 16. Great. A lot of tracks have really great high school series where the kids can get out. It gives them a safe place to go and race, and I think that's one of the great things about this sport is it's got a great grassroots system where anybody can come out, even on a Wednesday night, and just to a test and tune and bring their street car out and see what it will do.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I find it odd that half of the population of drivers in the world are women, but not nearly that are, drivers in professional drag racing. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think traditionally motorsports has not been a women's area. It's just not something that a lot of people were grew up thinking was something acceptable for females to do, and certainly that's changing now. But if you go back, 30, 40, 50 years ago, these were things that it was just kind of unheard of for women to do. Drag racing's great because women are more involved, I think, in this motorsport than any other motorsport out there. I mean, we've seen women competing, being successful, winning championships, long before we've seen that in any other motorsport. So I think we're way ahead of the curve, but you're right, it's nowhere near 50-50. I think it can be something really intimidating for a female if you didn't grow up around it, or if you didn't find some kind of niche way to get involved in it. It can be intimidating to get out there. So, I think that we're starting to see more women involved, and really when the Junior Drag Racing League started, I really thought that would be the biggest change for us, because I went to a lot of tracks when I was coming up through the ranks, and the young girls would come by and say, hey, in our Junior Dragster League we have more girls than we do boys, and so I thought that would really be the big change, and certainly there are quite a few women racing in the sportsman ranks, but I don't know that I've seen a huge difference in the numbers because of that. Not as big of a difference as I thought there would be.
Right. So were you intimidated the first time that you raced, even though that you had grown up around it your whole life? I mean, was that something that you were intimidated by the first time?
Absolutely. I was definitely intimidated. I mean, even getting in a new car, or I'll admit this to you, if I go to, we have some events like sponsor events where they'll call a customer race, and they'll bring drivers in, a professional driver to help kind of train customers of a sponsor, and they'll race basically rental cars out on the track the day before a national event, and we're brought in to help them. I feel sometimes like I get more nervous going down the track with them, helping them do that, or sometimes they'll have them competing against us. I get more nervous doing that. It's something new, it's something different. You don't want to make a fool of yourself. I think everybody feels those things. I don't think that's something specific to women, although I think it might be maybe a little more intimidating for us because we feel like we're being watched extra closely. But I think everybody feels that when they come out for the first time. No guy wants to come out and make a fool of himself in his car, miss a gear shift going down the track. So it's intimidating for everybody, and I think maybe the females feel a little extra pressure, but I don't think it's different for any of us.
Do you think it's harder or easier to get sponsorship being a female?
I think in theory it could be easier for a female to get sponsorship. I mean, we get a bigger percentage of the media attention when we come into town because we are something different. We're a story that is different, that the media wants to cover, but in reality, I don't think it has turned out that way. You know, certainly in my career, it hasn't turned out that it's been easier because of the media. And the only reason that I can bring that back to is that the sponsors that I think make sense for a female, which would be more mainstream, whether that's, you know, women still do the majority of the shopping, so if that's grocery items, if that's, you know, anything you would shop for, a lot of the things that I think make really good sense for women, we don't see out here. So it's not that I think sponsors don't want to sponsor women. I think we haven't done a good enough job selling the sport of drag racing to mainstream companies that you see involved in NASCAR, so they understand the value of motorsports, but we're not able to get them over here. And I think that's maybe where the disconnect is, why we don't see women able to do a better job of finding the sponsorship that we need to stay out here long term. And really, if you look at the economic, you know, downturn that we've gone through over the last few years, it's hurt women more than it's hurt men. I mean, certainly there have been a number of drivers who weren't able to find sponsorship to stay out here, but if you look at the numbers of females that were racing 5-10 years ago, you know, I can remember when there were 4 of us in Top Fuel. You know, right now I'm the only driver running the full series this year in the Nitro ranks. It looks like next year we'll get quite a few females back involved in it, but that's a big departure from where women have been involved in the past years, and I have to think that that's just because sponsorship's been harder to come by, and again, we haven't really, I think, done a good job at finding the right companies that can utilize having a female driver.
Okay, so you mentioned turning this into a career. You and I are at opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm, you know, very rookie. I'm in my first year, and you're obviously at the pinnacle of the sport. How would you, you know, tell somebody how you get from where I am to where you are?
You know, being involved in drag racing, like I would imagine a lot of motorsports, it's not like a regular career where you say you go get this 4-year degree, you do an internship here. There isn't any set career path that you need to follow. You know, when I was coming up, I thought my main focus was about getting seat time, having the respect of my peers, and I think all of that's important. But now that I've kind of reached the level where I've been, you know, that goal I've been trying to achieve, looking back on it, I kind of see things a little differently now too, that those things are still important. Seat time, you know, trying to get a lot of experience, earn the respect of people, but it's also very much on the marketing side, it's about obviously understanding what companies are trying to achieve through their marketing programs. You know, it's not a case of, hey, we're just going to put your name on the side of a car anymore. There's, you know, it's a much bigger program than that, but it's also about networking, meeting people, keeping in touch with them, because you never know when somebody you met at a company, you know, 5-10 years down the road is going to be running that marketing program. So it's the ability to meet people, keep those connections, and it's really a long-term process. It's not something that, you know, you're necessarily going to see the fruit of next year. It might be 5-10 years down the road. But I think those things are very important, and the number one thing for me is just persistence. If you stay out here, if you keep at it, if you show people that you want something bad enough that you keep coming out to the races, keep trying to, you know, get those opportunities, get in a car, find sponsorship, just that persistence to stay out here year after year after year, even when you're not racing. There, you know, multiple years I've gone where I haven't had a ride, but I've been out here talking to the teams, talking to sponsors, trying to make something happen, and I think that's what's made the difference for me.
Okay. Lastly, I just want to ask you, what do you want to tell the women at home who maybe haven't thought of drag racing before?
You know, there's just a great opportunity to come out here and you know, get your feet wet. And I know it can be very intimidating, but I think if you find out if your local track, if they have a test and tune night, if you can maybe get a group of your girlfriends, make it a girls' night out. You know, a group of your girlfriends, take your cars up to the track. You don't have to have a fast car. It's just about coming out and trying it out and seeing, you know, get your feet wet and see if you like it. And I think there's a great opportunity to do that. It can be intimidating, but trust me, there's a lot of great people out here who want to see new people involved in the sport, who will help you out, will give you a little advice. Maybe you can befriend somebody who's been out to the track before, or you know, a female that you know that races, or a wife of a racer, and kind of get a little bit tips on how you do things. But you know, just get out there, get your feet wet, give it a try, and I think people would be probably amazed at how much fun they would have out here and how much they enjoy the adrenaline rush of going down the racetrack.
Yeah, that sounds That sounds like a good idea for, you know, a lot of women to think about. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I'm Alex Rogeo for Drag Racing Online.